The Pittsburgh business community, like any major city, has so many elements to it. And depending on what sector you work in, you have a certain perspective about the things that you need, the things that make you feel important at work, that make your work seem valuable, or that makes you feel good when you get your direct deposit. My question, and I bring this up because I think so many of us can have tunnel vision, is how often we think about other sectors of the business that we work in. How often do we think about, if we're a business leader, how often do we think about the people who are working on the front line? If we're on the front line, how often do we think about the people who are leading our company? Well, to talk about that, Lee Kricher is back on the show. Lee has over 4 decades of senior leadership experience in both for-profit and nonprofit organizations, and he currently leads an organization that I've come to really love. It's called C12 Pittsburgh, and he helps executives to build great businesses for a greater purpose. Lee, thanks for being here. I'm glad you could come on and talk about it.
It's my pleasure. Always great to be with you, Kathy.
Do you agree with me that you think that there's a tunnel vision when it comes to business?
Well, everybody sees the world from their own perspective. And a little earlier, you were talking about how frontline workers so often feel discouraged about their lot in life and don't feel perhaps that they have the same advantages as their parents or grandparents did. So a part of what C12 is, and when I got a call about leading C12 Pittsburgh, I came to understand that there are 5,000 Christian CEOs worldwide who are meeting monthly. And there was no presence in Pittsburgh. We just got started in September of last year. But the key question that we're asking is, if your life belongs to God, then does your business belong to God as a CEO and a business owner? And if your business belongs to God, then what's your responsibility to your employees, to their families, to your customers and their families, to the community, if you are representing Jesus Christ in our city? And that's really the question that we wrestle with. We have a unique group of people. Everyone leads an organization. They're at the top of their organization, at least $2 million of revenue and at least 10 employees, though the average is about $40 million in revenue and about 80 employees in C12 Pittsburgh. But we wrestle every month with the question, is my business a ministry? And if so, what does that look like?
And what do you think, Lee, as you speak with executives across various kinds of industry who want to use their work and their lives to honor Christ, what do you think or hear from them directly is the greatest obstacle to doing so? Because I could imagine, having known a number of Christian business leaders myself, having served in some executive roles in Christian ministries also in my short career, I could see a number of possible hurdles or obstacles to honoring Christ with my business, whether I'm a CEO or just a top level executive. What do you hear are some of the kind of most common or most difficult to overcome obstacles?
Well, I think, Chris, that the most common is each person's mentality. As a CEO, they've grown up perhaps through an organization before they've reached the place where they are. And they've had a mentality that my faith belongs in one bucket, my work belongs in another bucket, and never will they meet. And so challenging that perspective that your faith and your work in God's sight are one. And when you hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant," which we all long to hear, it won't just be because you were a good dad or a good spouse or a good church member, but it's also because you led your business in a way that honors God. So I think that's a big challenge. And probably the second one is this separation of church and state. Can I even let my employees know about my Christian perspective? And how far can I go in expressing that to them? And so really, there's a bit of a fear there. And for the most part, that fear is misplaced.
Well, that's a kind of maybe a follow-up question I have. Outside of going the Chick-fil-A route, or perhaps the In-N-Out route of putting Bible verses on various pieces of paraphernalia, burger boxes or drink cups, which I suppose is a way to do ministry in your business. How does a a CEO of a local plumbing company or of a local print shop or a restaurant, how do they make their business a ministry without maybe being so overt, whether they feel that it's just not appropriate or they want to go out about it in a maybe more subversive or tactical way? What are some maybe practical pieces of advice you've either given or heard given in your groups where, hey, here's how you can make your work and your business ministry without necessarily putting a Bible verse on your front window, though you could certainly do that if you wanted. What are some ways that people have found to do that?
Well, a part of it is they're not afraid to express their faith to their
Sure.
employees. At least their employees are aware that they're endeavoring to be Christ-like in the way that they lead. And then, of course, to follow that up as much as we can on this side of heaven to actually live that. One of the more common ways, and on July 28th, we're co-sponsoring with Corporate Chaplains of America an event to talk about what C12 is about. And many C12 CEOs have engaged with Corporate Chaplains of America to have a chaplain who is on site at a certain period of time. And employees know if you've got something on your mind, you can talk to them. And they come from a Christian perspective, but you don't need to pray. You don't have to sign up for anything. And those corporate chaplains end up being an extension of the business owner in that they're a listening ear in a world where a growing percentage of people do not go to church. So C12 was based on the words of Billy Graham, that at one point he said, God's work is going to be happening more and more in the marketplace as time goes by. And C12 is a part of that prophetic insight that he had.
Yeah. Talk to our listeners about, I mean, I kind of know the answer to this because I've been involved with the C12 move to Pittsburgh since some of its early days. But I want people to understand what C12 is equipping business leaders to do.
I think each time we get together, I know each time we get together, there's a business curriculum that focuses on how do you improve your business to the glory of God. And the others in the room, it's really a peer advisory group. The secular version of that would be Vistage or YPO, but it's people who, the power in the room is not me as a facilitator or Alicia Hoy, who is our second chair coming into Pittsburgh, but it's the power of these Christ-centered executives who will talk to one another. So maybe as simple as, you've got a great growth plan, but your marketing plan will never get you there. Very practical stuff. And it may be as simple as, because each month we look at what we call life and leadership balance wheel. And someone may say, you know what, you've rated your marriage 4 out of 10 the last 3 months. What are you going to do about it? And one of our CEOs.
It's an accountability thing.
Yeah. And one of our CEOs said, I can't imagine anyone getting divorced if they were a part of C12, because it is such a sense of accountability for my entire life, as well as my business.
Yeah, that's really encouraging and helpful, Lee. That's a great input and I guess kind of a picture into what goes on. I would like to ask a little bit more about that. So can you give like another encouraging story maybe of how you've seen C12 change how people think about the relationship between faith and work, especially at the executive level? Because having worked with a number of executives myself over the past few years, I know that seat, especially if it's the chief role or even a sort of COO role, anywhere in that sort of C-suite, there can feel like there's such a target on your back, whether that's real or imagined. It can feel that way. There can feel a sort of pressure to be under the finger of someone, whether it's a business expectation or your customer or a board or something. It can feel like you're really under a significant amount of pressure. So what sort of ministry or work have you seen done? Any success stories or just kind of testimony of how you've seen this ministry serve that executive leader in particular?
Well, just this month we had in July, and we meet at Oakmont Country Club with our CEOs and also at Treesdale Golf and Country Club. And so these are great environments. There's a business portion of what we focus on and a spiritual portion. The business portion this month was based on Warren Buffett's words. That's the difference between a good leader and a great leader, is that great leaders say no to almost everything. And so there was a lot of this sense of entrepreneurial leadership in the room where people tend to say yes to everything. Of course, I can do this. And yet, does God really want you to say yes to everything? On the other hand, the spiritual side was talking about abiding in Christ. And what are the things that executives uniquely face that keep them from spending time with God? What are the pressures and the challenges that executives uniquely face that keep them from abiding in Christ and having this relationship with God that is so real and tangible that it does come out day to day, week to week, month to month? And those kind of things end up with people having a business or a personal spiritual to do that they come out with each month that they're going to report back on the following month.
All right, so you've got an event coming up, and what the conversation that we're having today, I'm hoping is going to be an impetus for someone who listens to this and says, hey, maybe like this could be for me. This could be for somebody I know. This could be for my wife. This could be for my husband or whatever. July 28th, tell us what's going to happen.
Yeah, July 28th from 9 to 12, we're going to be meeting with a bunch of people who want to find out more about what C12 is. Many of our 18 CEOs and 9 key players who are the right-hand person of CEOs are going to be there to answer questions. And then also we're going to have Kent Chevalier, the chaplain of the Steelers, talk a bit about his book. And we're going to tie it all together into the idea of business as a ministry and building great businesses for a greater purpose. So that's going to be Tuesday, the 28th. You can contact me on C12Pittsburgh.com. And it will be a great time to come and find out more about what C12 is all about and whether it applies or it's a good fit for you as a CEO or you as a key player to your CEO.
So the website is C12 Pittsburgh. Is that Pittsburgh spelled out?
Yep, C12 Pittsburgh.
Okay, C12Pittsburgh.com. And the event is coming up July 28th. It's 9 a.m. to noon. Where's it going to happen, Lee?
It'll be at Treesdale Golf and Country Club, and it'll be followed by lunch. And you'll get to meet a lot of great people.
Okay, so if people have questions about this, they can contact you via the website?
Absolutely.
Terrific. That's C12 Pittsburgh, spell it out, .com. We've been talking to Lee Kricher. He currently leads C12 Pittsburgh, helping executives to build great businesses for a greater purpose. Lee, I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Chris.